Hi everyone, thank you all for coming. So if the past few months we've been working here, as Thomas said, about on privacy website UX that will teach the people that actually build the applications here at HP how to solve privacy matters within the user interface. Now we found out that these people are lacking the necessary knowledge, but they also lack the will and interest in actually take responsibility on that subject. So today I want to share with you the approach that we took in order to overcome these challenges. How many of you have seen this film? Yeah. Quite a few. This is a reference from a movie called The Field of Dreams, where Kevin Costner acts as Ray, a farmer from Iowa that one night hears a mysterious voice coming from his cornfield and saying, "If you build it, they will come." Well, Ray decides to build a baseball field on his land, despite the terms of lunacy. And after that, the ghosts of great baseball players start emerging from the cornstalks and play ball. Well, privacy is not a game of baseball. It is not a game at all. But the metaphor of building a baseball field, a playground for that matter, to enable people to play, still holds. My argument is that just like in baseball, you have to build a defined arena with a clear set of instructions for how to implement privacy into the user interface in order to encourage the developers to actually do that. We have to move from vague philosophy into doable guidelines. For those of you who are not familiar with the work of the user experience designer, or UX in short, they are responsible for making the life of the user the easiest in reaching their goals. And if possible, to also enjoy themselves a little while doing so. And all of that while making sure that their business targets are also achieved. Simple, right? Well, that's the reason I'm here today. My name is Eynat, and I'm a user experience designer. And I have a broad experience both in user experience and development. I've worked on various projects like vision movies, or the Safe City and ADM movies that present a futuristic concept for our products and describes how different devices will communicate with each other. I also designed interface for tablets, smartphones, websites, smartwatches, and of course, interface for enterprise applications and tools. Do you remember the Oscar ceremony that took place a few weeks ago? The Oscar ceremony Blender, where Faye Dunaway and Warren Beatty received the wrong winning card and they didn't understand that there is a problem and they announced the wrong winner. Well, that's a funny example, well, funny for some of us, for the importance of UX in design. Because if you take a look on that card, you can immediately understand that there are three main things wrong with that. First, the name of the category is at the bottom in small print. The name of the winner is the same size as the second line and given an equal weight. And the third is the Oscar logo. It's at the top in big letters. And we all know that this is the Oscar. It doesn't have to be so prominent. With that card, anyone could have made the same honest mistake. So now if you take a look on the right, you can see how a reconstruction of the same card would have looked like if a UX designer would have given it 1 minute of thought. With that card, Faye Dunaway, even if she's extremely nervous, would have immediately understood that there is an error and would have avoided the embarrassment. So now let's talk about how we design the website. First, it is important to understand for whom exactly are we building these guidelines for? Who are the target audience? We were targeting two types of audience. The first are the application creators. These are the people that take part in building the applications. They are mainly R&Ds UX, UI designers, developers, of course, functional architects, product managers, and QA. These people, much like myself before I started working on the privacy project, are most likely have the basic notions about privacy, mainly in places like Facebook and WhatsApp, but less in the context of enterprise applications. They don't give much thought to privacy, if at all, during the design process. They don't have the knowledge, and they really don't know how to do that. And most of the time, they don't really care. For these people, these UX guidelines will provide simple instructions to follow. The second type of audience are, of course, the application users. Naturally, we're focusing mainly on enterprise application users. And for them, the output of these UX guidelines will help to build a user interface and user flows that will increase their awareness regarding data practices that take place in the application. Now, out of these UX guidelines, the privacy website UX was born. We wanted to create for our R&D, and later to go public with that to external readers, a one-stop shop that will make this experience engaging and fulfilling, where they can find the methodology, the guidelines, and best practices. Now, please note that the screenshots that I share here are only blueprints, wireframes. They are not a final UI design. And Shiri Gottlieb will share with you the final design in her talk right after me. So why should they listen to us? Why should a product manager or UX designer care if a certain topic in privacy handled or not? Why should the developer invest time in privacy? They are all still in the mindset of celebrating the collection of data. And we want to tell them a story about the sanctity of data collection minimalization. We have to motivate them and make them understand that it is their interest in doing so. So the first motivation, of course, is that privacy is a human right. Professor Julie Cohen, a law professor from Georgetown University, claims that privacy is not just something we enjoy. It's something that is necessary for us to be a complete and fulfilled person. The application creators need to internalize the understanding that having the basic commitment to the privacy of their users is like having the commitment to the life quality of all of us, including them. And if that didn't help, we always have the financial motivation. Privacy is not in contrast with the business targets, it is aligned with the business. Privacy helps to establish the company's credibility and to increase the user trust and loyalty, and at the same time to decrease the exposure to penalties given by the regulation authorities. We thought that it is important to embed and reflect these motivations inside our website. So every new visitor will immediately understand what he will gain if he will continue on reading. We have done that in two ways. The first, as is shown here, is a dedicated motivation page, which discusses these aspects that I just mentioned. And the second is that each topic, we have added an additional section, why does it matter? That tries to answer the question, why it is important to implement these specific guidelines for that specific topic. So now we have arrived to the core. If we want our audience to listen, learn, and engage, we have to tell them a story. Because people love stories. And we all listen to stories. We have to come up with a story that connects all the dots and standardize the way that privacy issues are handled within the applications or our products. Luckily enough, the notification, is the hero of the story that connects all the dots. The notification can help us to communicate awareness messages to the users that increase their awareness to data practices that take place in the application. Data practices like what information is collected, for which purposes, with whom it is shared, and how long it is kept. But it can also be used as a call to action messages that offer the users clear and simple choices and enable them to make a meaningful decision regarding their own personal data. But there is a catch. Putting everything in one single notification, one single long notification, is not effective. If we want our audience to really understand the implication of the information that we give them in the notification, it is best if it is given in the right context. So notices should be delivered at the appropriate time. But given the customers the information in the right moment, the notice is likely to be with greater relevance to them. And also, it is important that the level of details in the notification should match the context in which it appears. We identified 5 generic contexts within a standard application. At setup, just in time, forms, cookies, and mobile. And we have created a specific guidelines to each of these contexts. Now, due to time limitations, I will only be able to go through few of them and the relevance notices. So let's start with the at setup context. That context includes the software installation process and when the user first enters the application. Notices that appear at setup time should be condensed and summarize the main key data practices that take place in the application. The example that you see here is taken from one of HPE's performance testing application, and it is shown to the user when he first enters the application. Now, that application has rather unusual workflows, like recording all data that is going through your device while the monitoring process. And it was important to us that the user will understand right from the start what he signs in for. So the disclosure notice tries to explain to the user the data practices and what is going on in the application. And again, what information is collected, with whom it is shared, for which purposes it is collected, and how long are we going to keep it. And we also ask the user to his explicit consent to continue. A different context is the forms. The forms are the traditional ways for products to collect data from their users. And that makes them an excellent place to exercise our transparency towards the user and tell them the real reason why we're collecting that data. So here you can see a registration form. 2 of the mandatory fields are the email and the phone. If you were the user that's supposed to fill up that form, wouldn't you be troubled with the reason why they need your phone number? Wouldn't it be great if there would be an explanation, why do they need your phone number? And to make it even better, if that explanation will be right there where you need it and not buried in some long legal document? Well, that exactly is the solution that is shown here. The explanation is right next to the input field. That's a slightly different example. Here, the phone number is collected for two reasons. The first is for providing support to the user, and second, for direct marketing purposes. So the solution was, in order to keep transparency, was to separate these two usages and make the user make a decision whether he decides to give his phone number for marketing. And the third and the last context that I will talk about are the just-in-time notification context. But sometimes the users lack the awareness to possible privacy-related issues that are just about to happen due to a specific action on their part. For these cases, you should add just-in-time notifications that draws the user attention to possible unexpected behavior of the application. This example shows a notice that appears when the user is just about to upload a file into the cloud. And it tries to clarify to the user what personal information is being transferred, what the risks are, and what actions can he take. So to wrap it up, the idea is that it is best to have a complementary privacy notices that are tailored to a specific context in which they are presented than having one long notification out of context. The privacy statement is an excellent example for that, for a lot of information that is given out of context, and that would be probably the reason why nobody ever reads it. A much effective scenario is to have the privacy statement complemented by a short disclosure notice that appears when the user first enters the application, and to add just-in-time notices when it is needed, if there is a need in extra information and when it becomes relevant. So what I think comes to this? It is time to set up durable guidelines in order to implement privacy into the user interface and experience, in order to make the application creators make it easy for them to come on board. I believe that the learning experience that is both easy and engaging, together with the internalization of the idea that implement privacy into the product's UX is in the product's interest, will bring the change and put us on the path of making privacy a standard process within the product lifecycle. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. I want to tell you what was privacy for me up until a few months ago. It was just another link at the end of the homepage, written in small letters, no offense. And I have a confession, I've never clicked it. It always felt just uninviting. And then I got this project, designing the privacy website of HPE. And I thought to myself, oh my God, boring. But when I started designing the website, I discovered something fascinating. And I wanted to convey this feeling and to make this site accessible and unique. So my name is Shiri. I'm a designer with more than 10 years of experience. I designed a variety of UI concepts for the military, for medical products, cosmetics, cockpit user interface, and etc. I believe design is a way of life that embraces many fields. And I try to create the best experience between us and technology by way of useful and delightful concepts. So can we make privacy more appealing? The good news is that we can. And during this presentation, I will show you how. I'm going to talk about the process of designing the website and share with you how I tried to grab the user attention in order to make him stay. So in Hebrew, we have a saying, don't look at the battle, but what is inside it, which is similar to the English saying, don't judge a book by its cover. But today we are going to look at the battle. Because if our structure of the battle isn't designed well enough, the water might spill over you when you try to drink it. I think design can do a lot of impact, and we can use it to transform any content in an appealing one in a playful way. So, during the process of designing the website, I faced quite a few challenges, which I translated into a design principle that you can use. These principles is demonstrating on the following section: onboarding, key privacy principles, and UX guidelines. As you probably know, there's no second chance for first impression. Onboarding. The first thing the user experiences is onboarding. And hooking the user within the first few seconds is extremely important. Good experience buys enough time to re-engage. And actually, the web is becoming a lot like TV, and any product is like a new TV show. If they see something interesting, they will give it a shot. So let's see the little opening animation that I designed, which introduce the subject to the user. Okay, so after this opening, you start scrolling and enter the home page. The one-pager web highlights the important issues and links to more detail about it. I think this look and feel has more consumer design approach and makes this enterprise website a bit more inviting. So let's go to the beginning and I will explain it. I simulated data protection using a screen lock. Any key the user enters will open the site, but it looks like it is a code. I am inviting him to take action. Opening the lock reveals a portrait frontal image, which resembles a profile picture. As a designer, choosing the right image is always challenging. And I wanted to grab the user attention, and this straightforward and clear look grabbed mine. I really love this one. Here we are exposing to more data about the girl. It helps to illustrate her control over the data and her choice of what to reveal. And the second subject I'm going to demonstrate is the privacy key principle, which is a long list of principles that needed to be designed. So in what way could we engage the user curiosity? The direction I used was to make the user more active. So let's look first the final design and then I will explain it. I changed the long list into separate cards, and when I open this card, I open all of them, which is much more fun. And the elements I use here are all part of something we call interaction design. Interaction design means creating the best way for the user to interact with the software in the easiest way possible. It is the ability to visualize and play with these elements in new ways. Among other things, interaction design includes calling the user for action. He needs to click the first card in order to see the principles, using animation, and playfulness, exposure and hiding the card just for the fun. So my last challenge I want to talk about is designing the pages which explain the UX guidelines. These are the pages the users go to learn how to include privacy in their design. And one of the areas in these pages talks about forms and how to address privacy in different types of forms. My challenge was to focus the user on the form changes and of what is important. Okay. And this is the UX guideline before the design. It requires the user to do a lot of scrolling. Okay. And it is very difficult to notice the differences between one form to each other. So instead, I went for a gallery component. It helps to focus the change quickly. You can see the changes between one form to each other. And staying on the same page, avoiding the endless scrolling. And clarify how many different forms we have. We can see we have 5 circles, so we have 5 forms, and we are in the second one. In this example, we see a unique way to how to gradually expose the user to more information when he needs it. When I click this button, I expose the information below and also add a playful aspect. Okay, and my last challenge in the UX guideline is textual overload. Screens which have a lot of small text and sometimes not so many pictures. In this example, I demonstrate how we deal with textual overload and the solution we can use here. So here I use a sketch note grid element which applies to a magazine look. Display the content as a zigzag shape, create an interesting layout. Using white spaces, always make it easier to read. And last, using 2 columns like in a magazine. It helps to read when you have a lot of text. Okay, so one more last thing to consider is our need to balance between familiar layout and innovation. We want our website to be innovative and unique. But if we want to go to great usability, we don't need to reinvent the wheel in every page because it is confusing for the user. Our eyes prefer seeing familiar things, and researchers show that people even consider them more pleasant to look at. So it's better to use familiar layout together with innovation. And to conclude, giving a good impression to make the user stay, engaging him and keeping him interested, and keeping the information clear and readable. For sure, it takes a lot of effort, but privacy must be protected in our digital ecosystem, so I think it's worth the effort. Thank you.